WilliamDNordhaus, The Climate Casino, Risk, Uncertainty, and Economics for a Warming World. In The Climate Casino, Nobel Prize-winning economist William D. Nordhaus expertly navigates the complex landscape of technical, economic, and political aspects of climate change. This book summary delves into the intricate science behind climate change, the dangers of tipping points, the significance of carbon emissions, and the economic policies that can either address or exacerbate the problem. Nordhaus illustrates the importance of understanding and adapting to climate change by analyzing the winners and losers as global temperatures rise. Find clarity on cap-and-trade policies, carbon taxes, and the need for international cooperation in addressing this global challenge.
The Climate Casino Analysis. Nobel Prize-winning economist William D. Nordhaus presents a clear and comprehensive breakdown of the technical, economic, and political aspects of climate change in his book, The Climate Casino. Nordhaus discusses the effects of climate change in developed and developing nations, and how investors can benefit from his analysis. He also addresses the resistance to the evidence of climate science by contrarians and parties with special interests. Nordhaus makes it clear that the Earth's warming by a few degrees determines winners and losers, and cites carbon dioxide as a key contributor to the alteration of temperate zones, ocean acidity, sea level rise, more common hurricanes, and the extinction of species and habitats. Tipping points of climate change. The impact of climate change and how tipping points can produce a nonlinear increase in melting is discussed in this book summary. The author explains how changes caused by climate change will happen gradually and that we cannot precisely predict their impacts. Furthermore, feedback loops can cause a step change in melting, making predictions even more nonlinear and uncertain. Nordhaus warns that relationships between cause and effect become disjointed and indirect as exposed land reflects less heat than snow does and there is greater water vapor in the atmosphere. Carbon tax and climate change. Economist William Nordhaus highlights the benefits of a carbon tax for mitigating global climate change. Describing carbon emissions as negative economic externalities, Nordhaus argues that even right-wing economists could support the implementation of a carbon tax. By emphasizing to consumers and businesses the impact of their decisions on emissions, Nordhaus states that a carbon tax could spur investment and innovation that could save businesses and consumers money. The author also describes cap-and-trade policies as an alternative to carbon taxes, but highlights their potential for greater insecurity and price fluctuation. Additionally, Nordhaus argues for the replacement of coal-fired power stations with natural gas installations, as coal accounts for 40% of global carbon dioxide emissions. Overall, Nordhaus stresses that unregulated markets cannot solve problems generated by harmful externalities like CO2, and that a carbon tax could help address this issue for the benefit of current and future generations. Hidden costs of regulations. Regulations may be an invisible economic burden, but they enjoy more support than efficient taxes. Nordhaus argues that people aren't always economically rational, and regulations for fuel-efficient cars and insulation make practical sense. He suggests that carbon penalization is simpler than subsidizing everything else. The urgency of global collaboration. Lower participation in global cooperation makes emission targets impossible to achieve. Instead of targeting national emissions, implementing a uniform carbon taxation policy would be more efficient. With poor participation in meeting the 2012 Copenhagen Agreement target, the cost of carbon emissions is high, especially in underprivileged countries. Nordhaus urges nations to act to keep temperatures within the maximum 2 degrees Celsius rise in temperature set in the agreement. The author emphasizes that obstructionists of global cooperation risk being left in the melting ice flow. The timeless insights of Nordhaus on climate change. Climate change has worsened over the years, but the economic and political responses to it remain invaluable from the work of Nordhaus. His groundbreaking insights on the foundational principles underlying climate change still hold value to this day, despite the current administration's official policy of denial. Wagner and Weitzman's book Climate Shock provide further discussion on the topic in less academic language. Despite the complexity of Nordhaus's language, his multilevel insights are worth the necessary effort.
WilliamDNordhaus's The Climate Casino serves as an important guidepost for understanding the crucial principles underlying the economic, technical, and political aspects of climate change. The book emphasizes the need to address carbon emissions through taxation and questions the role poorer countries should play in the fight against climate change. However, as climate conditions have worsened and political stances shift, reaching global agreements has become increasingly difficult. Despite these challenges, Nordhaus's work remains as relevant as ever, stressing the need for global cooperation, unified policies, and innovative solutions to tackle this pressing issue.